Hi there, and welcome to this little witchy corner of YouTube where we like to talk all things magical, spirituality, witchcraft, and sometimes a book review, which I should have one coming up soon. We'll see if I actually do the full review or if I just include it in a witchy reads. Today we are going to be discussing 10 of the questions that I think you should consider asking yourself before you start a witchcraft journey. If you're already in there and you're feeling like you need to kind of recalibrate, like I do this all the time, then it can work for you too. It doesn't just have to be for beginners or people who are looking to start. I think everyone should really reassess, do self-assessments throughout their spiritual path, just to kind of like see what has changed, what maybe you thought that you would like that you no longer do, or that did and did not work for you. So this is something that we should be doing all the time, but I'm just catering this more so toward beginners because it's easier. Also, this is not like a die-hard prerequisite. I am not trying to say that if you can't answer all of these questions, then you shouldn't start, or that like these are the only questions or this is going to put you on the right path. Absolutely not. These are just some considerations that I think would be helpful, and I'm going to talk about why each one is helpful as we get to it. In short form, for all of it, when you're looking into witchcraft, when you're looking into spirituality, occultism, mysticism, any of those things, there is such a wide variety of information and so many practices that you can begin that it can definitely feel like information overload. It can feel like a culture shock. It can become so overwhelming that you just want to quit, that you just want to stop. And that's also partially sometimes why people end up having the imposter syndrome that is being talked about a lot right now. And I think that these are ways that you can help set yourself up for more success in the research throughout your path as you're learning. And we're always all learning. So again, this is why I think that we should come back and ask ourselves these questions, whether you're new or whether you've been learning, practicing for quite a while. Because most likely whatever you answer now is not going to be the same way as you would have answered maybe 5 or 10 years ago when you first started your witchcraft path. Also, I re-answered all of these questions myself right before I sat down to film this video, just because I really wanted to see like, okay, what answers are coming up for me right now in this moment at this stage of my life, and how can that be more helpful in the video, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. So the first section of questions, I have about 3 different sections. The first one is all about really clarifying your purpose, your wants, your needs and desires. Why? So what are you here for? Why are you doing this? And the first question is, what do you want? What do you need? And I'll read you my answers for this one. So I answered that I wanted a spiritual connection, community, a channel for creative energy and control over my own life. Those are my personal answers. Some other things that you could answer for yourself is confidence, a sense of purpose, love, self-esteem. It's like, what do you want and what do you need in this moment? And I think that it's really, really important to clarify these things first off the bat, because this is going to be the first step of figuring out exactly what it is that you want to practice. Because we can do research all day long, but at the end of the day, in order to be a witch, in order to do witchcraft, you're going to have to do something. So if your thing, like mine, is community, you're gonna have to go out and find that community. If it is a sense of control over your life, you're going to have to do some manifestation work. You're going to have to do some workings that bring you that sense of control, whether it's protection, whether it's confidence, whether it's self-love, cleansing. You can figure out kind of your purpose. It can help you from going down a rabbit hole that maybe isn't in tune with what you truly desire, with your divine purpose, with your needs and wants and what you need in this moment right now. You're gonna end up going down some rabbit holes anyway, but this can keep you from going down too many rabbit holes or maybe too deep into that rabbit hole that you don't need to be in. So the second question is, why do you think witchcraft, paganism, spirituality, new age, why do you think that this is attractive to you? What is it that kind of pulled you in? For me, like the first time I had heard about it, it was an older friend and I really looked up to her. So that was the first time that I had heard about it, and I wanted to be like her, honestly. I was just following in her footsteps because I thought that she was really amazing. And I mean, I still think that she's amazing. But now the reason why it's still attractive to me is because I like the sense of connection to nature. I do like the empowerment that it gives me. I like that it makes me feel beautiful. It makes me feel as though I am at peace. Some other examples of reasons why you may be feeling drawn to witchcraft, paganism, is maybe ancestral ties, is maybe pop culture, which I'm not judging that. I'm not saying that that's necessarily wrong whatsoever. I know some people will, but I'm not going to be one of those people. And it can also be the mystery. Maybe you just feel very attracted to ancient Egyptian research and history. That's cool too. Like maybe that's what's pulling you towards it. You're just genuinely interested in Egyptian, Celtic, Norse, West African styles of spirituality, of worship, of ritual, whatever that may be, the culture, the lifestyle. That can be a legitimate reason. So I think that this question is very important because it fine-tunes what we got from the first question, and it helps you just kind of like refine that research path even more, and it can help you start to think about exactly what style of witchcraft is for you. So for someone who is drawn in by pop culture references of witchcraft, maybe you should start out with Wicca. Maybe that's something that you would like. For someone who is brought in through their ancestral ties, maybe look at what your ancestors used to worship, and that would be a good place to start. For me, with the sense of empowerment and beauty, that's why I lean so much more towards like sympathetic magic and small rituals, not necessarily something that is a whole to do, a huge thing, but I really find connection and empowerment through sympathetic magic. Hey there, Editing Candace here. So I kind of define sympathetic magic later on in the video, but I don't do it here. So I wanted to go ahead and let you know, sympathetic magic is basically where you have a representation of something that may be spiritual or abstract or not, something that's like really tangible, like confidence, like beauty, like love. And so you use other items or objects to represent that idea, something that you can hold, that you can actually focus your energy on. And that is how I have best found to focus my energy. That's the type of magic that I use. And it's also kind of brought me closer to my Celtic pagan path that I am down right now. So hopefully that clears up any questions about that. Feel free to ask me any more questions in the comments below and I'll get to them. But again, I talk about this a little bit later. Just wanted to put a clarifying point in now, and back to the video. The next section of questions, this is more so about building your confidence and again, finding the right path for you. So a lot of this is going to be finding your path. What are you good at already? Like, what are you already really talented at? Maybe it's a hobby that you can apply to your practice, to your witchcraft, to your pagan worship. For me, this is communicating, writing. You may think I'm not a good communicator, but I am when I write, at least. So communicating, writing, dancing, singing, manifesting, and reading. I can read all day. That is one thing that I like thoroughly have brought into my spiritual practice, is constant reading and research. I do like chanting. I do enjoy singing. Something that I talked about in my witchy bucket list. I do want to start incorporating dance more. I would love to write blogs. Right now I'm communicating through YouTube. So these are just ways that I use my skills that I already have in my witchcraft, in my spiritual journey. The one thing that I have figured out that I wouldn't like, so if I would have asked myself these questions at the beginning of my witchcraft path, I would have never said manifesting, would have never said it. It was true back then, but I didn't have the right words. Now that I know that that's a strength of mine, I definitely would put that in there. I'm already good at manifesting. I'm already good at energy manipulation and focusing energy, which seems crazy because I am like an ADHD monster. But it's actually something that I'm good at and that I have figured out that I'm good at. So now that I know that, I can focus my spell work and my witchcraft on those skills, on those strengths that I already have. And let's not focus on things that I'm not good at, because that's just going to make you feel bad, and it's also not going to be the most successful. If you look at the skills that you already bring to the table, like, it's going to make you more confident in your craft. It's going to make you more confident in your spiritual journey. It's going to give you more success whenever you do actually start doing things. You're going to see success faster and more easily. I'm not saying don't learn anything new. Obviously learn new things. But if you're trying to force yourself to do something that you're just not good at, you're not going to have the confidence behind that work in order to make it work. What are you already passionate about? For me, this is mental health, religion, writing, and reading. Those are like the four things that I already know that I'm passionate about. It's what I focus a lot of my degree work on, and it's what I choose to research for fun in my personal time. Kind of as a follow-up of the previous question, in the sense of like, what are you already good at? Sometimes what you're good at is not necessarily what you're passionate about. It's just another way for you to find topics that would be interesting for you, and it's a good spot for you to start whenever you want to start researching more about witchcraft. So for my personal examples, mental health, this can go really deep into shadow work, meditation, mindfulness practices. Whenever it comes to my natural passion for religions, this is a great passion to have because it supports my research efforts. It supports my reading and writing about these different cultures and their religious practices. And it allows me to be very passionate about those rituals and about those practices and take them seriously. Some other ways that these questions can be helpful for you is that it can help you start to determine what kind of witch you want to be, what kind of practices you want to do, and maybe even what kind of deity you want to follow, if you want to follow a deity. Each question is building off of the last one, so I hope that you see that's kind of how I tried to build this. But the next question is, what are your top 3 values? And mine are loyalty, honesty, and knowledge. I did a work training one time that had us narrow down our values down to just 1 or 2, when, I mean, we could easily list like 10, 15 things, traits, categories of values. It's really interesting to see, like, if you had to choose 3, like, what would those top 3 be? And so I challenge you to do that. And that's another way that you can kind of figure out your own ethics and your own priorities with your witchcraft. And it can also help give you some ideas of, again, deities that are in line with your values, that exude those values, that are known for those values. So it's just another like little helpful tool for your research. This next question is probably the hardest. And that is, how do you view deity, spirit, whatever you want to call it? It's really important, if you don't have a solid answer yet, which most of us probably don't, because in actuality, we don't know. Like, there are people who say that they do know. If they are so strong in their beliefs that they know it to be true to their core, that's cool for them. For the majority of people, I don't think that that's the case. So I think that it's important to literally like write down, type out, I don't know yet, but this is what I believe. So I wrote that I'm still figuring it out, but I believe that deity, spirit, God is within and without the entire all-encompassing universe. Everything is made up of divine energy, therefore everything is divine. And some people may say, well, then if everything is divine, then nothing is divine. I believe everything is divine. And that's why we're all so important. And that's why everything matters. It's okay for everything to be divine, I promise. It's not going to make you less special. Some other ways that you can kind of look at viewing deity if you're trying to get the words right in your head. Some people believe in an all-powerful, all-knowing, all-loving deity. Some people don't believe in deity. Some people are atheistic, and that's completely okay too. Some people believe that there are many deities. Some people believe that there is one deity but made up and represented by many different subsections of representations. Some people see the different representations of deity as archetypes. Like there are literally so many ways to classify yourself within religion, within theism and or atheism, agnosticism, whatever you want to call it. My thing with that is that we can argue all day on what terms mean. When someone tells you that they are something and then they define that something as whatever it is, it's no use in saying, well, that's not really that, that's more of this. Like if you're having an intellectual discussion and they want to learn what these terms mean, then yeah, fine, clarify it for them. That's cool. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter. Like if someone says that they're atheist and you're like, no, that's really agnostic, or if somebody says that they're polytheist and it's like, well, really that's soft polytheism or that's panentheism, then like what good are you doing? Like just let people be what they want to be and call themselves what they want to call themselves. It doesn't really matter. There's so many ways that these terms kind of muddy each other and like blend into each other, where you can look at Norse paganism through the lens of so many different others. And I'm going to link a video below where Ocean Keltoy, which if you're not following him, I mean, do it, come on. Basically, like he goes through all of these different, I think he has like 8 or 10 different ways of describing theism. And in multiple ones, he mentions Norse gods and ways that Norse pagans, neo-pagans, reconstructionists, whatever, like fall into these different categories of theism. It's fantastic. It is so interesting, and I think that it is important for you to kind of know where you fall in, but at the same time, labels are only important for the people who need to understand what you're doing. So if you don't need to communicate that with anyone, which you don't, then like the label doesn't really matter. Just believe what you want to believe. Don't feel as though you have to label yourself. But it's a great video to watch because a lot of us see religion, see theism the way that we see it, like based on our own biases, our own experiences, and a lot of us don't think about the fact that other people view religion, view spirit, view gods in different ways than we ever could. I'm going to link that video below. I highly suggest that you go watch it. It will be very helpful for this question. I almost forgot to clarify. So the reason why this question is important, obviously, is because if you are starting a spiritual path or you do want to look into following deity, it can be very helpful in the ways that you actually interact with deity if you choose to. There are resources for atheistic styles of paganism and witchcraft as well. Some people call it secular witchcraft. I'm going to link a video down below too for that. I think you should watch it. It's by Thorn Mooney. Secular witchcraft is an interesting term. But the reason why this is important is because it can kind of shape the way that it can help you better understand your relationship to the divine. So, not gonna lie, it's Easter Sunday. That's why I'm wearing like my pretty springtime dress. I have a lot of neighbors who have social lives, like gross. But they're outside, they're having fun, they're enjoying themselves. So if you can hear people talking very loudly occasionally, it's just people enjoying their lives. Like, we all can't be Grinches, okay? I'm the Easter Grinch. So my third category of questions is basically about just getting real with yourself. I guess that last question could have been a part of that too. Again, everything's building off of each other. I love how this just like created itself almost. How much time and resources are you willing to dedicate to this spiritual path, to witchcraft? Now, I'm going to talk about this. This is going to wrap up with the last question. For me, I would love to sit here and say that I have a morning ritual that I sit down and I meditate and I get in touch with my divine self, but I don't. Like, I don't. I don't have the energy for it every single day. It's something that I'm striving to, and I would love to, but I just don't. So realistically, I have about one day a week where I feel like I can truly just be in my witchy spiritual self. Addition to that, I read pretty much every day. Every day I'm kind of reading something witchy. I'm always looking up and researching, watching videos. I'm always learning every single day. Again, this is not some sort of like black and white thing. On Wednesdays, I'm a witch. Like on Sundays, I go to church. It's not like that. Like you can do little things throughout your life in order. I have a video about this, about making making the mundane more magical. I'll link that video up above. Not so much like how much time are you willing to sit down, do a full-on ritual, do a full-on spell. It's like really sit down and figure out how much of yourself you're willing to give to this. Are you willing to tell friends? Are you willing to tell family? Are you willing to tell maybe one or two friends and test it out with that sister-in-law who seems pretty cool and open about stuff? And how much are you willing to spend? And again, I get back to that in the last question, but I'm not willing to spend a ton of money. There are some things that I really, really want that I do spend money on. I mean, I do spend money on my craft, but I don't spend a ton, and I do try to keep a pretty good budget about it. So this question is really important because you do need to get real with yourself with what you want to do versus what you can do versus what you actually do. And that doesn't mean that you fall into the same rut of doing the same exact thing all the time. I do think that you need to challenge yourself. I do have my personal challenges that I do want to have some sort of a daily routine that I can turn to. I think that it would help out with my mental health issues, with my anxiety. My therapist has told me to start meditating. It's hard. And it's not very interesting to me. Like, honestly, when I think about meditating, I'm like, oh, it's so boring. But then whenever I actually do it, it's like, I loved it. But it's just like getting there is the hard part, you know? This next question is probably my favorite because I'm a negative Nancy, but I think that it's really important as well, hence why it is on this list. And that is, what are you just plain old uninterested in? What do you not give two whole craps about? So for me, this is astrology. I include it every now and then, but it's not something that I'm super into. I think that it's cool. I think it's fun to learn about. Not into it. Wands, athames. Again, that's just like something that I'm not super willing to spend my money on. Like you can use your finger for all those things. And I know that people like using wands and athames because they feel as though it enhances their energy. For me, I feel like it almost draws down my energy. Like I'm having to filter it through another tool. Whereas if I just straight up use my hands or my finger or whatever, it's like immediate. So again, that's like a personal thing. That's something that I know that I'm not into. So I know I don't need to spend my money on it or waste my time on it. I'm still going to research it because that's just me personally. I like to know about everything. Another big one for me that I have figured out recently is I do not care about male deities. Don't know why. It might be sexist, who knows. But I feel so much more connected to female deities, female archetypes. I just have no interest in male deities. Like, nothing against them. Just don't care. Maybe it's because I really don't like being in the sunlight. That could have something to do with it. So some other things would be like palm reading, drawing, fairies. I personally don't have any interest in it. I kind of wish that I was into fairies because like fairy houses and stuff are so cute. Like, they're adorable. They touch the cottagecore part of my heart. I'm a big fan of them. However, I'm just like, I'm not personally interested in working with fairies. It's not something that I will go so far as to say that I don't super believe in, and that's okay. Like, we don't all have to believe in the same exact stuff. And that's the other thing too. If you believe that crystals are just pretty rocks, that's fine. Like, don't go out and spend your money on crystals then. I think that that's cool. Then you can channel your like energy and your research somewhere else. So that's why this question is so important, because a lot of the time we can find ourselves like being like, oh, well, I need to do this in order to do this kind of witchcraft. No, you don't. You don't need anything that people say that you need, especially if it is something that you have to go out and buy. Like, I promise you, you don't need it. You may want it and it is nice to have. You may feel a connection to it and like it can make you more powerful. That's cool. Then go out and get it. For me, I like doing candle magic. I like using candles that have colors representing what I want to achieve. So do I have 12 different colors of candles back there? You betcha I do, because I enjoy it and I like it and I think it works and it helps me visualize. Again, sympathetic magic. I am here for it. It helps me take abstract ideas and turn them into something tangible that I can relate to. And that's all that these tools are for, by the way. So if you don't have a hard time turning these abstract ideas into tangible things that you can look, see, touch, idealize, then don't worry about it. Like, I'm not super big into herbs or kitchen witchery or any of that. And I tried. Like, I so wanted to force myself to be a kitchen witch because I thought that was my thing. It's just not. I don't care. Like, I do enjoy cooking, but it's not, like, it's something that I do feel as though I put love into my food. And I mean, some people may say that that's kitchen witchery, but it's not like a path that I'm like diehard going down. This next one is kind of like just a like mini question. It's just very small. It's like necessary for any time that you're learning something, and that is basically, what is your preferred method of learning and teaching? How do you learn best? So if you are someone who hates reading, don't go out and get books. Like, get audiobooks, listen to YouTube videos. If you are a hands-on kind of person, maybe go to classes. Actually find books that have things that you can do with your hands that you can then go on, or books or videos with examples of things that you can do with your hands that you can actually practice with and then build off. I know a lot of people have problems with like spell books. I don't have a problem with them, just so long as people realize that they need to take that spell example, maybe do it once or twice, and then find a way to personalize it. As long as you're personalizing your stuff at the end of the day, then it's fine. But I think that it's really great for beginners actually, because it can give them some confidence and it can give them the roadmap to start building these spells and enchantments and whatever on their own. So this last question is probably the most important, and that is, what can you get for free or very low price? You will find a way to spend your money. I promise. You will. You don't need to spend it all at once in the very beginning, because there is just too much that you can end up paying money for that you don't use, that you don't have any interest in, or that does not speak to you, or just isn't good either. So there are a lot of people who sell books and crystals and candles, and they are not worth a damn. You may think that you're getting something, and it's really not. It may just be a colored piece of glass. It may be a really pretty candle that is made of horrible wax that does not burn well, that is going to mess up your spells. It may be a book that is just filled with pretty pictures. You know what? Maybe it makes you happy, but there are better things out there, I promise. So I have examples of, especially books, because that's like that. That's my kryptonite. So I have done as best as I can to get books used, but I still buy new books. because I just see it and I'm like, I need you. And also I like supporting small businesses, and if they have like a new book that I really like, then I'll probably buy it. Check out what you can for free first, and then use that as a way to figure out what you're willing and what you want to spend your money on. Especially whenever it comes to informative style content. Just some really, really quick examples of free places to learn about witchcraft. YouTube, libraries, free books, free groups on Facebook. So you're gonna have to join a lot. Find some in your local area. If you're in Virginia Witches and Pagans, best group on Facebook, like hands down. Love this group. So informative. For the most part, like super, super friendly, low drama. Every now and then something comes up, but that's just because people gonna people. There are some other groups in this area that are just like 100% drama, and like you don't know it till you get in there though, so just join a lot, figure out what works for you, where like the people are actually going and communicating. There's another group that's like more localized to where I am, and people just don't talk there. So again, I would kind of start at like state level, and then maybe region, and then maybe city, and join a group and ask if there are groups specific to your region. Ask if right now we don't really have meetups, but I would normally say a meetup or a moot or something like that. If there are any sort of open circles, open covens, that would be great too. But we don't really have that right now. So Facebook, I like 100% say Facebook is the place to go. Another place, if you are stateside, I don't know if this is a thing outside of the US, but we have CUPS, which is okay, so what does it stand for? Because I know what it is, but I can't remember what it is. Okay, so CUPS, which is Covenant of Unitarian Universalist Pagans. So if you are stateside, you can find a local CUPS chapter easily. Go to cuups.org. I will have it linked below. They'll have different sort of events, live Zoom calls. There's a few different CUPS organizations in my immediate area, like within an hour or two from where I live, and they have been doing things all during the pandemic. Like they have been having meditations and classes, and a lot of what they do is free or by donation. I highly suggest going to that website and at least joining those groups. You can find a lot of great people who are doing events, even if they are online. And now that the States is starting to open up again and has been open in some areas, it can be a way for you to find out about events that are going on live in your area in person, if that's something that you're willing to do. Through this, you can meet magical friends. I would also, so for meeting magical friends, this is like my new tip. If you do runes, if you do tarot, and you are willing to go out in public with these things, take them out with you and have your tarot cards, your runes out, and read in a public spot. My friend Azure and I were out at brunch the other day, and she was doing a tarot reading for me. And our waitress ended up coming up to us after we were done and being like, I just got a cat tarot. And we were like, ah. And then we found out that like she has a, was it Witchy or Pagan? But she has an Instagram all focused on tarot, and she's very much into witchy, magical stuff too. So it was so cool. Like, it's amazing the kind of people that you can find that have things in common with you when you put yourself out there. Again, if you're not comfortable with that, then don't do it. But you'd be surprised how many people are actually into this. So like, maybe put some feelers out there and see if you can catch any friendly fish. And also, I have met some friends in these Facebook groups. Azure, that I was just talking about, I met her through a Facebook group. And again, you do have to filter. Don't just go and like meet any old stranger off of the internet. Like, be safe. Meet in a public place. Don't tell them where you live. Don't give them your phone number right away. Like, wait. And your magical friends can be a huge source of knowledge. Like, it's crazy. There's actually a lot of stuff that I know that I can share with my friends and that they are willing to teach me about. Like, tradesies. Another really good one is the Pagan and Witches Amino app. This is another one where you can definitely end up down some rabbit holes. They have a ton of information, and if you like the old style forum type of conversations, then this is definitely something for you. I was on the Pagan and Witches Amino app for about a year. I ended up getting rid of it just because I didn't really need it anymore. I may actually re-download it because there was a, like, people would post things and they would like people would post like blog posts related to their particular spirituality, and while I don't necessarily want to do that or follow that, I think that it's important for us to be aware of what each other does and the variety in the practices. And also, if someone comes to you and has a question about something, then maybe you can still speak to it a little bit and then give them like some resources to actually go and find someone who has experience. But it can just broaden your mind, and so I may re-download it just for that. And then, of course, used books. I will always say used books. At the end of the day, you are going to end up spending money on this, and it's fine. I'm not saying don't do that. I will never say don't do that. Like, do what you can, do what you want. I don't care. You're an adult, I hope. My videos are for adults. There are so many people who are selling information that you can get for free online and in libraries. I'm not saying that everyone who is selling something is a shyster, is scamming you. I'm not saying that whatsoever. Classes that you pay for can be great for if that is the style of learning that you need. If you need someone that you can interact with and talk to, I totally get that. I am that way sometimes as well. I need someone that I can bounce ideas off of. The difference is that in this kind of a path, we have so many avenues where, because of social media and because of the internet, where you can get that for free. And I'm not trying to downplay anyone's side hustle or like even their full-time job. I'm not saying that these people don't deserve to charge. I think that if people are willing to go to the classes and that they want the classes, then by all means, again, that might be the best way for someone to learn. And that's why that one question before, how do you learn best? That's how this comes into play here. If that is your way to learn, spend the money. Don't care. If it's not your primary way to learn, I highly suggest looking into free resources first, because otherwise you might pay money for something and then you start that class, you start down that path, you start on, oh my gosh, there's so many classes now where you pay like $400 or $500 and it's supposed to be like a year-long dedication to a study, and or like even more than that. And while I think that those have their place, and I will probably do one of those in the future, I'm going to do so much research around that first and look up reviews and see what I can learn before I do something like that, so that I know that I am spending my time and my energy and my money wisely. Don't ever let someone tell you that you have to spend money for something. It should not come that way. It should never be something that is pressured onto you. And that is that's me and my TED Talk, so thank you. So those are my 10 questions. Please let me know if there are any that I should have added in here. If you have any answers to these questions that you think would be like good for the group to know, I would love to see your answers. I would love to see like how this helped you maybe formulate the way that you go into your research, that you go down your witchy path. I think that would be super cool. Please share with me. Please communicate with me. Ask follow-ups for sure. Love it. Yeah, I've been talking for a long time. This is a really long video, but I hope it was helpful, and I hope that you are doing well. I hope that you are staying safe. Like, comment, subscribe, share, do all the things, and have a magical day.